in a galaxy far, far away.
So, Cannes Film Festival, George Lucas, who's receiving an honorary Palme d'Or, was there doing an interview in front of an audience today, and he had a lot to say about the critiques of episodes 1 through 6 of Star Wars, and he goes after the sequel trilogy. This is really the first time since his comments to Charlie Rose got him in trouble. The White Slavers comments. I've actually got the video included midway through this so you guys can hear what he said. The thing about it is what he said, that things were forgotten, that they didn't do right. He was the only person who knew Star Wars and the way the universe worked. He's right. The fact that people like Kathleen Kennedy didn't stand up and say we need George here because he's the only one who really understands this says a lot about her arrogance when it comes to what she thought she knew about the universe that she was now queen of. Okay, so here we go with this one. They would say it's all white men. Most of the people are aliens, he said. The idea is you're supposed to accept people for who they are, whether they're big and furry or whether they're green or whatever. The idea is all people are equal. I mean, he basically implied, and I don't know if this is tongue-in-cheek or not, the only beings that were really discriminated against in Star Wars were the droids. And it's like, but, George, they're tools. They're not really alive. So you're kind of going, what? But still, he had a lot to say about that. When you think about Star Wars, you think about Han, Luke, Anakin, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn. And, you think about Senator Palpatine, a.k.a. Darth Sidious. You think about the Imperial officers. And, the fact that the people that were complaining was all white men didn't consult Jimmy Smits. He is Latino. Okay. Didn't consult Samuel L. Jackson. He's a black man. Didn't consult Lando Calrissian. He's a black man. Okay, didn't consult these actors. And then, of course, the criticism of the women in Star Wars. So he says, who do you think the heroes were? This is a direct attack on the Molly Damons of the world. Okay. You've got, did you ask Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia? George said they can wear dresses, they can be whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and plan and be logistical. But he also said that's what makes a hero. No, it doesn't. Courage, as John Wayne said, was being scared shitless and getting up in the saddle and riding into battle anyway. All right, that is being courageous. Leia was already a hero when we met her. Okay, she was the courier. All right, and her journey was different. Padme Amidala, a young leader who could fight alongside her man like Leia could. And, this is probably one of my favorite looks for her. and look beautiful and vulnerable, just like Leia did in The Empire Strikes Back. You know? And being a woman is more than just putting on a pair of pants. All right, that this is how stupid they are. Okay. And then he says, Star Wars sequels, he says basically he was the one that really knew what Star Wars was, who actually knew this world, because there's a lot to it. The Force, for example, nobody understood the Force, he said. When they started other ones after I sold the company, a lot of the ideas that were in the original sort of got lost. Yeah, because they weren't trying to make Star Wars. What you got with J.J. Abrams is cosplay, all right? That's what it was. It wasn't Star Wars. He didn't understand what he was doing. Larry Kasdan never understood it. The only reason why The Empire Strikes Back was so successful is because George and Irv Kirshner and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford were there tweaking the script. And George was developing what the Force was and what the story was as they went along, which is how you do. Okay. It staggers me that people don't understand it. And again, this is a direct subtextual attack on Kathleen Kennedy's leadership. And it's really interesting to me looking at all this and trying to figure out where this is going to go. When you look at what he said, he has been allowed to say stuff about the sequel trilogy that Disney, when he said it in the Charlie Rose interview, Disney got pissed off at him. All right? There's a change now. Okay. This discussion that he had, there's a change now. Notice how none of it's about Indiana Jones. Okay. That will get taken care of. But, all right. I wasn't shocked by what he said. I know that there are going to be a lot of SJW crybabies out there saying he doesn't understand and blah, blah, blah. No, it didn't. What is going on here is Rian Johnson, for instance, wanted to take the old books, the things that George loved, the old stories, and destroy them. And George is saying no. That's not how you do it. All right.
These are my kids. So
All those Star Wars films.
all the Star Wars films.
They were your kids.
Yeah, well, they are my. I loved them. I created them. I'm very intimately involved in them, and obviously to
And
sell
you
them
sold
off.
them.
I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and.
Okay, but having said all that and having
They
talked to you,
really didn't understand what the word graffiti meant.
They didn't. The studio executives generally are not the most sophisticated people in the world. And you will find that if you go to Hollywood. I hope you don't, because you don't want to be oppressed by people who are not as smart as you are. And I'm dumb. And obviously...
I think I broke my nose. George Lucas broke my nose.
Dennis, what's going on?
Is he gonna be all right?
He's gonna be fine. Never again, Dennis. Never again.
The age of men is over. The time of the orc has come.
Get out.
Here all night.
Get out!
So, what's going on here? Well, the Acolyte reviews came out, and of course, the professional critics loved it. But I'm going to say this, that means nothing to me, because if they like something, they loved The Last Jedi, okay? They loved The Force Awakens, all right? Both movies sucked. We all know they sucked. They loved Andor, okay? There's a pattern here, okay? And in my opinion, when you've got people like that tripping around, screaming how good something is, the audience isn't going to show up. Nobody listens to them. And as George liked to say, critics aren't well versed in filmmaking. They're not well versed in storytelling. They don't know what they're talking about. So George having this interview now with the Acolyte reviews coming out, I'm not sure if this was calculated timing, but it sure does look like it to me. I'm not really convinced it's not calculated timing. It's one of those things where you're kind of like, it is or it's not. It's just, but I also don't believe in coincidences. It's not a coincidence. Okay. George has this interview. He comes out with both barrels smoking. And the Acolyte reviews come in. And of course, the usual suspects are raving about it. Same people that loved The Last Jedi. Pretty sure none of the fans are going to like it. Okay. It is not going to get a second season. All right. Because just nobody wanted it. Okay. And when you look at his criticisms, when he talks about him being the only one who understood the universe, who knew everything about it, well, he created it. And that is, what he said was a direct finger pointing from him at Kathleen Kennedy saying, you fucked this up, lady. Okay, look, there are times when I actually feel sorry for her. She obviously is somebody who got lucky, Peter Principle kind of thing. And she, got to a place in her life where she couldn't deal with the job. And, when you hear things like she didn't watch her dailies, she was not getting along with directors, and, Gareth Edwards gets fired, Colin Trevorrow gets fired, the two directors, young directors from Solo, but, that's the only time when I go, you shouldn't have hired them in the first place. They were not appropriate. Her not being able to deal with a director, a male director, who has a specific vision for what he's doing. Okay, James Mangold is going to bend all over backwards for her because he's not an alpha male. Ridley Scott would not. Christopher Nolan would not. She worked for Clint Eastwood. All right, no, Steven Spielberg wouldn't. He openly would mock her. He did last summer, a year ago. Okay, so George saying that the people that made these sequels didn't know anything about Star Wars, he's right. And the fans saw it. Okay, Mark Hamill saw it. I think Harrison Ford realized too late that it was going to be bad, and that perhaps, I still think perhaps his presence when they were making The Last Jedi could have probably saved that movie, because he would have gone straight to Bob Iger saying, you got to fire this director. This is a shitty script. Okay. Or Carrie, Mark, and I are leaving. We don't care. It takes a certain cachet to be able to get into the face of the CEO of Disney as an actor, to get into the face of the president of the Lucasfilm as an actor and say, this is garbage, I'm not fucking doing it. Okay. Now, I don't know if he did that with Indiana Jones, but I'll bet you he made noise when they were refilming the end, and that's why they had to refilm it. Okay. It wasn't just the fact that it was bad, but it was, what am I saying? It wasn't the fact. It was not merely the fact it was bad. It wasn't Indiana Jones at the end. Okay, that's why they had to refilm it. Okay, and that's all on Kathleen Kennedy. She's supposed to be a budget master. She's not. Okay, she's supposed to be creative. My dog creates better poops than she did movies. Okay, trust me on that. So I look at what George said, and it was a direct statement at Kathleen Kennedy about how bad the sequel trilogy was. Okay, and I tell people who don't like the sequels that don't count them anymore. They don't matter. And this is going to get people like Jacob Suggs on X, Molly Damon and her pet Alex pissed off, Jason Ward pissed off, and all the rest of these people. And the reason simply is the master has spoken. No one's going to rebuke him. He rebuked them. So everything that you thought you liked about your precious sequel trilogy just got slammed by the guy who created Star Wars. And it proves not only Kathleen Kennedy didn't know anything about Star Wars, you fuckers don't either. Okay. Bravo, well done, George. And you sucked the air right out of the Acolyte. This is Steph, signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.